Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the book of Deuteronomy. We're still in Deuteronomy chapter 5. Today we're going to wrap up our look at this chapter. We spent several days with it because in this chapter Moses restates for the Israelites the 10 Commandments. Now in truth, of course, they had received the 10 Commandments 40 years before at Mount Sinai. So what Moses is doing is reestablishing or reaffirming or renewing the covenant with them. And after he finishes giving the 10 words again, he reminds them, in fact, this is a renewal of the covenant that you received from God at Mount Sinai some 40 years ago. That's what he says in verses 22 and 23. These are the commandments that the Lord proclaimed in a loud voice to your whole assembly there on the mountain. That's Mount Sinai. There on the mountain from out of the fire, the cloud, and the deep darkness. The Lord added nothing more. Then he wrote them on 2 stone tablets and gave them to me. So Moses reminds them that at Mount Sinai they had heard the voice of the Lord as he spoke the 10 Commandments. And then Moses had gone up on the mountain into the presence of God. And when he came back, he had the 10 Commandments written down on 2 stone tablets. Verse 23, when you heard the voice out of the darkness, the mountain was ablaze with fire. All the leaders of your tribes, your elders, came to me and said, the Lord our God has shown us his glory and his majesty. We have heard his voice from the fire. So the people knew they had experienced God. They had heard his voice and had received the 10 Commandments, the foundation of the law of God. They were written for them on the 2 stone tablets. So Moses reminds them of this. He says, we are simply renewing the covenant today that was first made 40 years ago on Mount Sinai. And then verse 32, he gives them this word of encouragement. So be careful to do what the Lord your God has commanded you. Do not turn aside to the right or to the left. Walk in obedience to all that the Lord your God has commanded you, so that you may live and prosper and prolong your days in the land that you will possess. So you've received the instruction of God. You've received the 10 words. You've received the law. Walk in it. Don't turn aside to the right or to the left. Walk in the way that God has given you. You'll think, well, why would anyone turn aside? Well, people do. That's what sin is. It is a distraction. We turn aside to the right or to the left and cease to follow the way of the Lord. And so Moses gives them this encouragement. God has shown you the way, his way. He's given you the law. Walk in it. And the result will be, when you possess the promised land, you will live long, you will prosper, all will be well in the land that God has given you. So if you want the fullness of life God has in store for you, if you want that abundant life he has in mind for you, walk in the way he has given you. So the Israelites are reminded, God is the God who has redeemed you. He brought you out of slavery in Egypt. He brought you across the wilderness. He has brought you to the promised land. God is the God who has redeemed you. And in his grace, he has shown you how a redeemed people ought to live. He has shown you the way that a redeemed people ought to walk. So walk in the way of redemption, and all will be well. You will know the abundant life he has promised. Now, of course, we know the history of Israel. We know that oftentimes they did not walk in his way. They did stray to the right or to the left. Eventually, they would be exiled from the land and would go into exile in Babylon. But again, God would restore them and bring them back if they would just be faithful to his covenant. It's the same for us. In Jesus Christ, we have been redeemed. We have been set free from slavery to sin and death. We are a redeemed people. And God has given us his law. He's given us his word in the Bible. And he tells us, walk in it. This is the way of the redeemed. Walk in it, and all will be well. If you want to know the abundant life, then walk in the way I have shown for you. So how important it is for us to know his word, to reflect on his word, and by his grace to live in his word, to live in the way he has given us, that all may be well. He said that long ago to the Israelites, just before the end of the promised land. He says it to us as well today. Let us walk in the law of the Lord. Let us walk in the way that he has shown us. Hope you join us next time for our next 5-minute Bible study in Deuteronomy. Tomorrow we'll begin looking at chapter 6. So join us then.